Hello and welcome to my kitchen here at Trails End 62. Alright, eggs. Now we just canned our eggs. These are store-bought eggs. They're grade A large eggs. The rest of my egg program here that I'm doing, I'm using farm-grown eggs. These I got fresh eggs locally because eggs went up again, so I just got some. They're smaller, but these are the kinds you need if you're going to water glass eggs, which is one of the things we're going to do. Everything else we're doing, you can use store-bought eggs to do. And as a matter of fact, you get your bigger eggs with the grade A large eggs. If you like the smaller eggs, get the smaller eggs. If you're water glassing, you need these eggs, farm fresh, because you want the ones with the bloom still on them. I'll explain more about that when we get into water glassing. But this is what I'm using for our next phase of eggs, and it is going to be dehydrating eggs. Now, when we dehydrate our eggs, I'm going to be using my dehydrator, and on that I'll be using the silicone pads that you use for like fruit roll-ups and things like that you use liquid on. This right here goes on my dehydrator. Yours may be different, depends on the kind of dehydrator that you have, but this even has a little lip on it on the inside and on the outside, so I'll be able to pour the liquid on there and make sure these are clean and dry. And that's very important, especially in this first phase in which we'll be doing raw eggs, dehydrating. You need to make sure everything is clean and dry. It's very important when you're doing eggs in the dehydrating process that you have this clean and dry for doing the raw eggs. So the first part we're going to be doing is we're going to be raw eggs. I'm only doing a dozen of them. That's not a lot with these little eggs, but I'm only be doing a dozen of them, and then I'll be doing another dozen, which will be scrambled eggs, dehydrated. But first the raw eggs, and again, you want to make sure everything is clean and dry. I take my eggs, especially the farm fresh eggs, just a little pointer here, I put them in a separate bowl as I crack them open just to make sure they're good. Sometimes with farm fresh eggs, they may have been out there a little longer than the people that collect them thought. Kind of depends. So always crack them in a separate container first before you mix them with your other eggs. Just a little pointer. Alright, so I've got them in my blender here, and I'm going to blend these up. Now I'm just going to pulse this. Now once they're blended, then I will take and put them over in my dehydrator. Now I'm going to pour these on my trays here, and I've got this leveled up. And you want to pour them pretty thin on there. Yeah, put another tray on. Do the rest of it. I might even could have divided this up into 3 trays here. Okay, so I got those poured on there on the 2 trays, and I'm going to set my temperature at 145. You don't want it any higher than that. If you don't have an adjustable temperature, you need one that's going to go at least 145. Now the scrambled eggs, normally I would do those at 140, but I'm going to do all these together, so I'm going to start this one out at 145 because that's what these eggs call for. Turn it on. This will take 12 to 18 hours to dehydrate, depending of course on your temperature, the weather, the humidity, and that sort of thing. Redo this. I'll be adding some other ones to it with the scrambled eggs, but because this type of dehydrator you need to use at least 4 trays, a minimum of 4 trays, because you need to give it the weight that it needs in the distance. So we'll start there, and I'll add to those 2 trays as soon as I get the others done. Alright, the next part is going to be scrambled eggs. Now these are not going to be raw, they're going to be cooked and then dehydrated. So a little bit different process. Although I'm using these farm fresh eggs again, excuse me, the smaller eggs, I'm going to be doing a dozen of them. I'm going to be scrambling them in a pan, in a non-stick pan, without any oil. And I'll blend them together. I do them just like I did the raw eggs. I had to wash some of the shells off because there was, they're farm fresh eggs, and so I had washed the manure off of them, and that's okay for these. When we do the water glassing, you do not want to wash them. You want to clean them, but not wash them. Again, we'll get to that when we get to the water glassing. But for this case, I'm gonna blend these up, and then I'm gonna scramble them. Then we'll have to let them cool a little bit so I can handle them before we put them on the dehydrator. I'm using a cast iron skillet here. This is actually a paella pan, cast iron paella pan. It's a non-stick surface, but since I'm doing all of these, I want them to cook fairly evenly across. Now, since these are cooked and a lot of the moisture is already cooked out of them, of course, they won't take as long to dehydrate as your raw eggs will. So in my case, since I'm doing these at the same time, then I'll put them on there and let them dehydrate. I'll take these off first, and like I said, on my dehydrator, you have to have 4 trays on there for it to work properly. So I'll have to replace, when I take these off, replace them with empty trays like I have on it now. Alright, well that looks good. Looks like I don't see any moisture in it. They look good and cooked through and through. We'll break them up and then we'll put them on the pan. And by pan I mean the dehydrator tray. Okay, first a little apology here. I got my temperatures backwards. The raw eggs should be set at 140 degrees, and normally the cooked eggs are set at 145 degrees. So I'm going to set it at 140 because you can cook these on a lower temperature. Since they're already cooked, you can dehydrate them on a lower temperature. Might take a little bit longer, but I'm going to spread them out here on the dehydrator tray, pretty thin, as you can see. So I got those spread out on there, and now again I'm going to be running this at 140 degrees because that's what the raw eggs are run at. Well, that part's done but the waiting, so it'll take 10 to 12 to 18 hours. It kind of depends on the humidity and the environment and everything on how long that it takes. So we'll keep that going. We'll rotate our trays when we need to and get those dehydrated, and we'll be back with that part of it after they are dehydrated. My eggs are dehydrated. The scrambled eggs didn't take quite as long because they were already cooked. Scrambled. That's a dozen eggs right there. Didn't take quite as long as the raw eggs. These are the raw eggs here. That's a dozen raw eggs. And notice the difference in the coloring. So they took about 24 hours. One thing that you might remember when you're dehydrating the raw eggs especially is to make sure that your dehydrator is level, because it is runny and it will run over, and that's the problem I had with mine. The reason it took so long, I had to break it apart because I thought I had it level, but apparently I didn't. But anyway, so it took a lot longer, but they're dehydrated. I've had them what they call hardening in these bags for about a week or so, where I just check them every day, Make sure there's nothing, no moisture left in them. Make sure nothing's going bad, nothing's sticking, and they're all good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in a little food processor that I have. Sorry, it's plugged in. A little food processor that I have, and grind them down smaller. And then we'll reconstitute an egg and show you what it looks like. I'm going to start with my scrambled egg that's cooked, because remember, the raw eggs are still raw eggs. So these are cooked. I'm going to start with these and put them in here. You can use a blender or something like that if you have it. Whatever. Okay, I've got my dehydrated eggs. This one here is my scrambled eggs dehydrated. I'm going to put them in this right here and grind them up. I want it ground into pretty fine powder, because if it's not ground in a fine powder, then it takes a while for it to reconstitute. And we want it ground up pretty fine. And then I'm going to do my raw eggs. Alright, to reconstitute them, for the scrambled eggs, we will take 1 tablespoon of our powdered eggs. And I remember when I was a kid in Boy Scouts over in Spain, we ate a lot of powdered eggs at camps, summer camp and stuff. I think they were probably freeze-dried though. And for the raw eggs, it takes 2 tablespoons. And when this mixes up, it will make the equivalency of 1 egg. Now I've been working on this one a little bit. I didn't have it quite ground as fine as it should have been. And so this is the raw egg, and it's taking a little bit to reconstitute, and it should have the consistency of an egg. If not, you can add a little bit more water. Now let's look at the more powdered one. And this one is more powdered than I just did, and of course it mixes up quicker. And the consistency, as you can see, is a lot more eggy. Now remember, they don't have to be for this, but these happen to be farm fresh eggs, so the yolks were a little darker, and that's why this is so much darker on the raw egg. I'll leave there where you can see it there. So basically that's 1 egg, raw egg. Remember, these are raw. They have to be cooked like any raw egg. This has to be cooked. You can scramble this egg. You can use it for 1 egg in a baking, cooking. It calls for an egg. You can use this. And there you have it. 1 raw egg. Now this is the scrambled eggs. As you can see, it was very rough ground, and it's not reconstituting too quickly. That's still a little bit hard in there. Powdered, you can see it reconstituted a lot better, a lot quicker. And then that's a scrambled egg. It's already been cooked, but you would probably have to heat it up again. So that's the dehydrated eggs. Is it the best? I don't know. But they're usable if you need to go long term. The dehydrated eggs, you take these, put these in a jar, vacuum seal the jar, put an oxygen absorber in there, and they will last 2 to 5 years, at least up to 5 years, what they say. and that's powdered eggs. You can use that. You can eat it. Heat that up and eat it. This still has to reconstitute a little bit. You see there's still a little bit of powder up here. Everything takes a little bit of time to reconstitute when it's been dehydrated. Again, the raw egg, same thing. Put it in a vacuum sealed jar with the oxygen absorber in there, 2 to 5 years. Treat it like it's a raw egg. You don't want to get salmonella or anything like that, so don't get it wet, don't get it moist. Keep it dry, and treat it like it's a raw egg. Cook it. It has to be cooked. You can't eat this raw. This technically you can eat raw because it is a cooked egg. Alright, this one's cooked, but your raw egg has to be cooked again. Not again, it has to be cooked first time because it is raw. So be careful with it, but that's your dehydrated eggs. Okay, I cooked up the eggs. This one here is the rough ground raw eggs. This one here was the finely ground raw eggs. And this one here was the mixture of both the roughly and finely ground already cooked eggs. So I went ahead and heated it up, boiled the extra water out of it. Let's take a taste. Take a taste here. I'm not too impressed with the already cooked scrambled eggs. I don't know. Yeah. The dehydrated raw eggs, both of them, they came out pretty good. And like I said, they can be used in baking. It's one egg, and it's just a scrambled egg. I heated it up. Turns out pretty good. The already scrambled eggs, I'm not real keen on those. Nope. Anyway, there they are. That's it for eggs. From my house to your house. From my kitchen to your kitchen. God bless.